And Dutch Infrastructure Service Company, that's NC, says is looking to support Nigeria and Morocco's gas pipeline project. That's a multi-billion-dollar project is still on the table and now getting it fast-tracked under the new administration. Ghana's Goldfields, which is listed on the exchange, reporting 4% drop in gold output in the first 6 months of this year, while the president of Mali has signed a new mining code to raise the stake of the government in the industry. Those are your business markets headlines. This Friday, the 1st of September. So the first Finance Act to be implemented under the new Tinubu's administration goes into effect today, the 1st of September. The Finance Act 2023 was prepared by the Buhari's administration and was introduced back in May, but the effective date was pushed forward to September. Now let's bring the Finance Act into the macroeconomic thrust of the new government within its first 100 days. Welcome my guest, Yomi Olugbenro, a partner and West Africa tax leader at Deloitte, Nigeria. Thanks for coming through this evening.
Thank you so very much.
We appreciate making it.
Always good to be on your show, boss.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Nice having you on the show tonight. Summarize the new Finance Act for me, just to recap where we were, and we'll have this conversation back in May or thereabout, so early June as it were, as to what's in this Finance Act was prepared by the former administration and been onboarded by the current one. Will anything change, or does anything have to change, or is cast in stone?
Well, I think, like you said in your intro, today is the new day, the new effective date. So it was meant to become effective back in May. It was signed just before the last president ended his term. But the new president came in and realized that quite a lot was happening in the economy. Some of the changes that were made with respect to fuel price, with respect to floating of the currency, introduced some kind of constraint and concern into the broader economy. And that was why the president signed, it was one of the 4 executive orders, if you remember, that was signed by the president. And specifically, the president yielded to the demand to have at least 90 days of notification to the tax-paying public of any change within the tax law, which wasn't applicable with the implementation date previously. So 1st of September was then the new date. Now, what it means effectively is that every change introduced by the Finance Act becomes operational today. And if you recall the conversation we had then, there were a couple of some new taxes. Education tax, for example, was raised from 2.5% to 3%, 0.5% import levy on non-African imports, and a couple of cleanup, of incentives and allowances that taxpayers were previously tax holidays were cleaned out. The intention essentially is to be able to expand the base a little for the government for revenue. So what that means is that effective from today, all of those changes have kicked in.
And some have been kicked out.
And some have been kicked out. Absolutely. So I think the intention essentially is to see how from the non-oil sources, government can get a lot more from taxes.
In terms of revenue.
Absolutely.
But again, when you look at the new finance tax, who's going to carry the heavy lifting? Is it the corporate or those who pay personal income tax? No,
quite a lot is on the corporate side.
On the business side?
On the business side. I think the only major change we had on the personal side was actually a lot more of a relief. There was a reintroduction of life assurance premium policy claim that was cleaned out in some of the earlier bills. So it's going to be a lot more on the corporate. And I think if you put it within the broader context of what's happening within the economy, it means it's tough days, from a tax-paying perspective. But mind you, that one of the moves that the president also made was to set up a tax reform committee.
Yes.
And that's been inaugurated, and I mean the work started in earnest.
Yeah.
So I think if you put everything together, I think the understanding we're getting from a fiscal side is that government realized that some softening needs to happen from a tax perspective, and it's given the tax reform committee a marching order to get some quick wins in within perhaps the next 30 days to 90 days, or at least within the first 6 months, so that there can be some cushioning. Some of the consolidation, some of the harmonization, perhaps the committees, looking into that to see which which of those areas can be taken on as a low-hanging fruit.
So it's likely. Is it likely that the Tawo Udele's committee would be looking at the new Finance Act as well and see if there's a need for any new tinkering? Is that likely?
No, absolutely. So everything is on the table.
Everything's on the table.
As far as we know, as far as I know, obviously the chair will be in a better position to probably do the full dissecting. But from the mandate, we heard the president and the chair and the rest of the committee speak to Nigerians just after the committee was inaugurated. So the mandate is very clear. Look at all of the taxes, all our laws, and the Finance Act are essentially one of the taxing legislation. So whatever needs to be replaced, whatever needs to be consolidated from the tax agencies, from the tax type perspective, and whatever immediate relief the government can give from a tax rebate perspective, everything is on the table.
Interesting, and I'm trying to find out what's in this new Finance Act that could bring something as a game changer to the economy. I know the government needs every penny, every kobo, every naira on the table and in the kitty. And as the finance minister says, this is not the time to go borrowing, by the way. So trying to look at, let charity begins at home and see how much we can make from home. But again, if it's going to be for corporates, then I'm wondering, is there something in the Finance Act that could make a whole lot of difference? And we're pushing this at the federal. What about the subnationals?
Well, quite a lot of the changes affect the federal tax law. VAT, the company's income tax, not so much is done with respect to the personal income taxes, which are the legislations that the State Internal Revenue Services essentially are driving. I'm not sure from the Finance Act alone we can essentially say something can be game changing. From if you look at the context, the complexity, and the issues on the table, there are quite some new additions that could, make some positive contribution from the revenue side, particularly if you look at the 0.5% import levy that's being charged on non-African imports. That's, if you look at the propensity to import and the fact that a significant portion of our import is coming outside of the continent, then 0.5% levy could add some sizable amount of billions to
whether it is rice or chicken, whatever whatever part of the world you're bringing it in.
Absolutely. Once it's outside of Africa, it's covered in that provision.
And that's a little bit of protection for our African market. That's at least for African producers.
Absolutely.
But at least if you want to bring in rice, bring in from any other country within Africa, I don't know, from Thailand perhaps.
Absolutely. And there's also the excess levy on services. I know that the executive order specifically singled out the 5% on telecom. There's quite a much wider coverage, in terms of what that's supposed to mean from an excise perspective.
So what it looks like, is the telecom industry being overtaxed?
Well, everybody will exactly say that, not just the telecom sector. I think every time every sector talks about taxation, isn't just so much about the quantum alone. I think the multiplicity of it and the challenges we're dealing with multiple agencies and all of that is probably even a much stronger complaint. And that's part of the mandate.
Tax that is in the law book.
Absolutely, and that's part of the mandate to say, look, you need to reduce the number of taxing points, both in terms of the agency and in terms of the number of items that taxpayers are having to grapple with. Officially, it's numbered in the range of 60. Unofficially, it could go into 100 or 200, depending on who you're talking to. But I mean, I've heard the chair of the tax reform committee say the objective, the goal, would be how to reduce that to single digits. And that would be quite a fundamental shift. At
the end of the day, do you think we will have to do something with the tax laws or tax book kind of codification at the end of what Tawo Udele and his team and others are doing? Do you think somehow we should come to something close to that?
That's exactly what the thinking is. We need to change the entire architecture of the taxing legislation. We have so many of them that are essentially outdated, and it makes it contributes to the difficulties and the complexity. So we need to repeal many of them. We need to consolidate and enact new laws that will be more friendly and a lot more attuned to the reality of the new economy.
I want to go back to the subnationals, because if I'm doing investment and I'm coming in from wherever in the world, yes, it's Federal Republic of Nigeria, but I've had to go to a state government to put up a plant or to set up whatever. So what about state tax laws at subnational levels when I'm not dealing with a federal agency, I'm dealing with a state government?
Yeah, I mean, it's
You're doing some work there as well.
Absolutely. And again, this committee is taking that also as part of its mandate. And if you look at the composition of the committee, that's why it's actually very extensive. I think the chair of the Nigerian Governors Forum, it's a member, of that committee. The idea is to be able to bring in as many people as possible. Remember that some of the laws that are being implemented at the state level are enacted centrally. All right. In addition to the legislative power that the State Assembly also carried. So everything is on the table. And I think the drive and the objective is to ensure that we touch not only the federal side, but the subnationals, the local government authorities as well.
That'll be interesting. But again, if you put this Finance Act within, the one starting today, within the context of the macroeconomic policies that the new administration wants to pursue, put them together for me. What do you see? What would you like to see?
Well, I think what I would like to see is to see how quickly this committee, comes out with some quick wins, to be able to connect the dots. In some of the comments by the president just before the inauguration and also after, I think its focus has been how to synchronize what's happening on the fiscal side with the monetary authorities and ensure that there's some bit of synchronization. Up until now, we haven't enjoyed that kind of synergy. And that's why you see on the one side, there's a lot of complaints within the economy. Corporates and Nigerians are battling with, the new FX regime, the new oil. And on the other side, the tax authorities are also having the mandate to, rake in as much revenue as possible. There seems to be some bit of disconnect between those.
Interesting how this would move forward in terms of actualities on the ground. But again, the government is talking about an 8-point agenda, which the new finance minister spoke about earlier today, and that will be the fulcrum of the new policies and what have you. So, but the new Finance Act is starting today. You've got to start preparing for the new budget for 2024. That's another milestone that we haven't really been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we start thinking about the 2024, I think for me, what will be paramount will be how do we begin to reshape the fiscal imbalance and reduce the fiscal deficit. I know it's going to be a delicate balance because on the one side, there's so much to be done and there's so much spending that is required to finance infrastructure development and all of that. And there's just so much revenue on the other side. But if the efforts within the oil sector, FX has been liberalized now. If we raise production volume up a bit with the new exchange rate, there's a significant uplift. Right, on the oil revenue side. Yes. So some of the effort also with the FRS on the non-oil taxes side, I think on the average now, they started raking in about 1 trillion naira. On the average. So if that continues, we should also shore up the non-oil tax revenue up a bit, and maybe there's some assets and some that government may want to dispose of, in the interim, because ultimately we need to reduce fiscal deficit. And begin to deal with the ballooning of the national budget, national debt.
National debt, and that's the issue. Whether we can ramp up on using the Finance Act and other things to raise as much tax revenue, so that we don't go back borrowing while we try to service what we already have on the table, which is quite burdening. How soon do you think we should be able to reach a bit of an equilibrium, in a manner of speaking?
I think it's going to take us a while. In as much as I'm optimistic with the continuation of the trajectory that FRS seems to be pursuing, you also need to counterbalance that with what's going to be happening to operating margin and bottom line of businesses who are facing the impact of FX. Significant, increase has been done to, capex and cost of running business because of fuel price increase and all of the multiplier effect on the various sides. So it's going to take us some time before an equilibrium can be in sight. I don't expect that to be 2024.
Interesting again when you look at the tax system, and a number of folks will tell you, look, some of us are paying so much tax in the oil industry. There's so much hundreds of billions of naira, maybe runs into dollar terms, that are not being paid. So the Nigeria extractive industry has figures on the table and say oil companies are not paying X, Y, Z. Those who are either upstream or downstream whatsoever. So this huge amount that's outstanding, do we have anything to bring those money in? At least those guys are owing us.
I think Nigeria is quite a large economy, and each side of the argument that you look to, you will have substantial, and almost convincing argument. So there is the argument of people paying so much taxes, people overburdened by the multiplicity and by the quantum of it. Yeah. But there's also facts supporting the argument that quite a lot are also not within the tax bracket. And what government is trying to do is to ensure that a lot of the people who are still outside of the bracket, yes. The high net worth individuals, the informal sector, and also the large corporates who are not currently captured, come in. I think we should focus a lot more on that side and kind of even out the play field for everyone. Those who are paying taxes at this point need some bit of pat on the back.
So those who are paying shouldn't pay too much, and those who are not paying should pay.
Need to be brought up.
Need to be brought into that. And that will be something I would want that committee to really look into. Again, because there are a whole lot of leakages when it comes to tax and all of that. So I'm trying to find out, do we need a tax police? Well, do you think the FRS can do what it requires to say, look, if you're not paying tax, we can go after you?
I think that the FRS should do it. It's how to do it effectively and systematically and smartly. I think that's a question that FRS needs to rethink quite a lot more. And that's simply a technology issue. We need to do a lot more by infusing technology into the administration. Significant progress has been made, but quite a lot still needs to be done. We need to create a system where everyone earning income, legitimate and otherwise, within the economy, have no hidden place. And they need to be able to be brought into the book to be able to pay their fair share. The taxman is not interested in, how legal or, otherwise your source of earning is. Yes. You need, in fact, the tax system can be one of the ways by which you checkmate illicit flows and corruption, yes. And all of that, because at the end of the day, the revenue authorities have access to all of your financial transactions.
Because tax in other climes is a capital offense.
Absolutely,
it's like sending you to the electric chair.
And you'll see celebrities and public figures, being called to book and putting their hands behind their back and being asked questions.
Because again, some folks spend some time on the weekend like this, and they rake in millions and millions. And
you'll be surprised, such data is not reflected in the tax number.
No, because it's all delivered in bags, in Ghana must go bags. So there's no record.
That's exactly what needs to change. And we need to find ways of making sure that this is enforced, this is implemented. You can't continue to chase the good guys who are doing legitimate business and multiplying the taxing point and the question
and jobs in the economy.
When guys are making multiples of that and smiling away to their homes and to their bedrooms.
Well, maybe sometimes smiling to the nightclubs. But again, so now you just mentioned in your earlier comment about the luxury tax. Why is it difficult for us to onboard the tax for the rich people like yourself?
That's interesting. If you
the rich man tax.
I'm sure your listener know who is supposed to be subject to luxury tax between you and I. But that's quite true. In some other clime, you see personal income tax, property taxes taking a significant portion, of the tax revenue. In different parts of the world, the corporate taxes is deliberately lower to attract direct investments and influence the business.
Because if we are going to throw out tax holidays, we still need to incentivize businesses and enterprises within the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the guy who's got that private jet packed will have to, because it's not creating jobs.
Absolutely.
By packing that private jet.
Absolutely. So we must shift the focus to taxing the profits, the income, and not restricting investment flow, into the country.
That's a delicate balance.
That's the delicate balance, and I think we have a golden opportunity with this, recently constituted committee. Everyone who has, spoken, who has complained, who has, given advice about what a reformed system should be, it's in that committee, and we're hoping that we should have a good outcome at the end of the day.
Many Nigerians on the street will be happy to see the flotation of what you call the rich men tax, so that at least they can see, well, at least we got them.
I'll be watching out for your name on that list, Bosin. Good to be on your show.
But it's good. Thank you so much. Let's end it on that note for tonight.
Thank you so very much.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you as always for your insight.